A seller gave me a 3-day trial last year, and I spent all 3 of those days loading an address checker page in a browser. Green tick, right country, right city. I bought 20 lines. The real job started failing about 9 days in. Nothing on that checker page had anything to do with the work I was buying the lines for. That is the most common way a trial gets wasted, and I have done it more than once. Before anything else, I sell mobile proxy lines. SIM cards on Singapore carriers, modems on a shelf in my flat, about $10 a month per line in data, and another $50 in modem depreciation. I would like you to buy some eventually, which is exactly why I want you testing properly. The buyer who tests badly and pays anyway is the buyer who churns in month 2 and tells a forum the product was rubbish. I would rather lose a sale during the trial than lose it in a refund thread. So this is the checklist I would hand somebody evaluating me. 6 checks in the order they should run. Cheapest first. Check 1 is the address what you were sold. Every block of addresses on the internet is registered to an organization, and that registration is public. One lookup returns who holds the block and the network number it sits in. Run it on every address in the trial, not on one, because a pool is only as consistent as its worst entry. A good answer is a mobile carrier's name if you bought mobile, a consumer internet provider if you bought residential, and the same holder across every address in a pool that was described as one pool. A bad answer is a hosting company sitting behind something sold to you as residential. That happens, it is not always deliberate, and it is always worth an email. The other bad answer is a pool where the registration wanders across 4 unrelated holders in 6 countries. That is a reseller buying from resellers, and nobody in that chain can tell you what you are actually getting. This check costs nothing and takes about a minute. Do it before you write a single line of test code. Check 2. Whose history are you inheriting? An address has a past. Reputation services keep lists, and a lot of sites do nothing more clever than ask one of those services for a score. So when you take a trial address, you take whatever the previous tenant did on it, along with any grudge the list still holds. Run each trial address through 2 or 3 reputation lookups. 3 tiers are fine here. You are not looking for a perfect score. A good answer is boring. No listings at all, or one listing from a service that flags every mobile address on earth for being mobile. A bad answer is an address already sitting on a spam block list, or one that comes back as a known open proxy. You have been handed something that was burned before you arrived. I once had a pool address turn up already refused by my target on the very first request. I had not sent anything yet. That was somebody else's month, and I paid for it. A seller who hands out clean addresses during a trial and dirtier ones after payment does exist. Checking on day 1 at least gives you a baseline to argue from later. Check 3, speed from where the job actually runs. This is where the checker page does the most damage. You load a speed test in a browser on your laptop in Singapore through an address in Frankfurt, and you get a number. That number describes your laptop, your home line, your browser, and the distance to Frankfurt. Your scraper will not run on your laptop. Measure from the machine that will do the work. If the job runs on a box in Ashburn, test from Ashburn. If it runs on your home line at home, test there. Measure 2 things separately: time to first byte on a small request, and sustained throughput on something large enough to actually stream for a few seconds. A good answer is a first byte time you can live with, and a throughput figure that stays roughly steady across 10 repeats. A bad answer is a fast median with a tail that goes to 8 seconds on one request in 20. Tail latency is what kills a scraper. A job firing 100,000 requests will meet that tail 5,000 times. So write down the worst of your 10 runs, not the average. The average is the number the seller quotes. The tail is the number you live with. Check 4. Does a session survive a real unit of work? Pick the longest single thing your job does. A login and then 11 pages. A checkout flow. A paginated crawl that has to hold the same address for 4 minutes. Hold one session for that long and watch whether the address stays put. A good answer is the same exit address at the start and at the end, with no reconnect in the middle you did not ask for. A bad answer is a silent rotation halfway through, which on a lot of pools is the default behavior rather than a fault. You get a fresh address, your session dies, the error surfaces on the target side, and you spend 2 days blaming the target. Ask what the sticky session duration really is, then verify it instead of believing it. I have seen a 10-minute figure on a sales page behave like 90 seconds under load. Check 5. Can you rotate on demand? The opposite test. Force a new address and confirm you can. On a rotating pool, that means a new outbound connection or a different port. On a mobile line, it means a rotation link or an API call that asks the carrier for a fresh session. A good answer is a new address within a few seconds every time you ask, and the old one not reappearing on the very next request. A bad answer is a rotation that takes 40 seconds, or one that hands back the address you just had, or an API that quietly rate limits you after the 5th call and never says so. Time it. Write down how long a rotation takes and how many you can do in an hour, because both of those become hard constraints inside your code later. Check 6. The only test that matters. Run a small slice of your genuine job against your genuine target. Not 100 requests to a checker, 200 requests of the exact shape your scraper sends with your headers, your timing, and your parser reading the response. Everything before this point is synthetic, and every synthetic test is a poor stand-in for the one thing you care about. A good answer is your parser pulling the fields it expects out of most of those responses. A bad answer is anything that looks fine to a HTTP client and comes back empty to your parser. That is the failure mode that costs people weeks because the status code says 200 and the body says nothing useful. So assert on content. Count rows, not responses. Why a checker page tells you almost nothing. A generic address checker answers exactly one question. Can this address load a page that is happy to be loaded by anybody at all? Your target is not that page. It has its own rules, its own history with your address, and its own tolerance for the pattern your requests make. The checker also has no interest in refusing you. It exists to display an address back to you. Of course it worked, and the browser you loaded it in is not your scraper. Different fingerprint, different header order, different everything. The one useful thing a checker gives you is confirmation that traffic is leaving through the address you think it is. That is one line of a trial, not the trial. Test at the hour your job runs. Contention runs on a clock. A shared pool at 4 in the morning local time is a different product from the same pool at 8 in the evening, when everyone on it is awake and pulling. A mobile line is worse for this, in an honest way. It sits behind a carrier's tower, and a tower at rush hour on a weekday is congested for exactly the same reason your phone is slow on a packed train. So if your job runs at 2 in the morning, test at 2 in the morning. If it runs during business hours in the target's country, test then. A trial run at a quiet hour flatters every supplier equally, which makes it useless for choosing between them. 3 things to ask before the trial starts. How many other customers are on this address right now? A supplier who says 1, meaning you, is selling dedicated. A supplier who cannot answer is selling shared and would rather not put a number on it. Both are fine to buy. Only one of them should cost dedicated money. What happens when a line dies at 3 in the morning? Is there a swap procedure? Is any of it automatic? Does it need a human awake in the right time zone? And can I have a replacement without an argument? I replace a dead line and drop a note in the ticket. Some suppliers make you prove it first, and you find that out in month 2 rather than during the trial. None of those questions have a technical answer. All of them tell you what the next 12 months are going to feel like. What I got wrong. I evaluated a supplier once by testing their addresses for 2 days and their company for 0. The addresses were fine, clean registration, sensible latency, and my slice of real work came back with the rows in it. I bought a block of them. Then something broke on a Saturday, and I learned that their support was one person on a different continent who answered on weekdays, 11 hours of dead capacity every time. It happened 4 times in 2 months. I had tested the product and skipped the company. Those are two separate purchases, and I only paid attention to one. Now I open a ticket during every trial, usually about something small and slightly stupid, on purpose. What comes back and how fast is information I cannot get any other way. A trial is only a sample. 3 days on 100 addresses tells you about 3 days and 100 addresses. It will not tell you what happens when the seller's pool gets resold to somebody running something loud on the same subnet. It will not tell you whether the lines you were given were quietly handpicked for you, which is a normal thing for a seller to do and not even dishonest. So buy 1 month, never 6. Keep running these same checks on a schedule through that month, and keep the numbers in a file you can put side by side later. The figure worth watching sits in month 2. All month 1 tells you is how a seller behaves while they know you are still deciding. And my honest position is that I cannot promise you a clean run either. Nobody selling addresses can. What a decent supplier can promise is that when a line goes bad, you get another one quickly and without having to fight for it. The full checklist with the exact lookups and the numbers worth recording at each step is at proxyscraping.org. Subscribe for more on scraping with proxies.